of the year and ask the question, where have you noticed the most growth thus far this year? Oh, Mez just managed to just missed it, huh? F in the chat for Mez. First time in in a year of doing morning journal, getting cut off, getting cut off in the middle of answering something. I guess there's a first time for everything. Someone saying F's in the chat, doves, condolences, tombstones for Mez Bull. I guess Mez was bullshitting around and didn't manage to get it in time. All right. So this year, where have you noticed the most growth? Where have you noticed the most growth this year? That is the first question that we are starting with this morning in session 252 on a Tuesday. And I know for some of you, the place that you have experienced the most growth is them edges. Some of you have experienced the most growth on them edges. And ain't nothing wrong with that, you know? Natural is beautiful. So this year, where have you experienced the most growth? Fun fact, FactBot has been able to handle stress much better, along with being able to use art to relieve that stress, not just distract. So using art to relieve stress, that's great. Having tools available to alleviate your stress. So art, absolutely. FactBot is a really creative and interesting photo editor, compiling some alarming and sometimes disturbing images that make you like feel a certain type of way. Yeah. Sometimes they're hard to look at, but that's the point. Sometimes they give you the heebie-jeebies. But that's the point. All right. So where have you noticed the most growth thus far this year? Noble Ancient says this year has been a bit of a series of firsts. First commission, first big skills boost, first big changes, and first time in a bit I missed Monday morning journal. Yeah, Noble's compromising that bid to get to 5 mics up in here. Compromising that bid for that 5 by missing days. You ain't gonna get there like that. So Warrior says that I've seen the most growth in my journey to becoming sober. We are going on 50 days here soon. Well, that's fabulous. That is fabulous. Noble Ancient says 4 mics works for me. Mez says all I need is 1 mic. Mez is like Nas up in here. All I need is 1 mic. Or maybe M-I-K-E. Maybe there's a Michael that you only need it. Yeah, so let's think about it. Let's look back over the year. Where have you seen the most growth? I know that most of the time we start our years with some intentions, Mez says the only mic I need is the Archangel. When fun fact, listen, when Factbot says drug sleep deprived fuel monsters, Factbot means art. Right. That is fact. Factbot's art are sleep deprived drug sleep deprived fueled monsters. Warrior says, you said my name. Warrior typed something in the box and just dozed off. Tim says, these guns, that's where I've seen the most growth. Now, what's the word for doing things repetitively enough every day? Oh, consistent. Yeah, that. I've not fell off my goals yet and don't plan to. So shout out to a little bit of consistency. Shout out to consistency. That'll get you all the places. All right. So looking at this year, where have you seen the most growth? Sometimes it might be worth taking a minute to think about that. A lot of times the growth and the gains that we experience are almost invisible. While we are thinking about that, you can drop some green hearts in the chat. If you're not in the middle of typing, go ahead and drop some green hearts in the chat. Retha's listening in. Let's go ahead and give them let's give them some vibes over here. All right. Chamberlain, thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about where we've noticed the most growth thus far this year. I guess Mez is working from a laptop because we got a whole list of, we writing out words today. So Mez says consistency is greater than intensity. And then I am naturally intense, Noble Ancient says, and yet kind. Chamberlain, thank you so much for the like. Miss for dropping another like. Miss says that the place that I have experienced the most growth is not my edges. Not my edges. I'm closer to my dream of becoming a nurse practitioner by being in school, and wow, I've really come into loving myself, feel my crush, and my crush helps me get it done. So getting closer to becoming a nurse practitioner in school and loving yourself. Beautiful. Miss is intense. Yeah, I would say. There's some intensity there for sure. Soupy, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and let us know where you've experienced the most growth thus far this year. We're just going to take another couple minutes with this one before we move on to the next little bit of the conversation. All right. So I know that one of the things that, like Tim mentioned, having some consistency as being the hallmark of the growth this year, having more consistency. So our next prompt is going to kind of speak to that. The next couple of prompts are going to speak to that. SOK has joined us. Welcome in, SO. It's good to see you. All right. So we're going to take a look at, with the next prompt, we're going to take a look at maybe some places where we haven't had the consistency. Maybe there's some places where you haven't seen that consistency. So we are resizing, getting everything situated over here. So the question, blank was working, but I stopped doing it. Blank was working, but I stopped doing it. So I'm about to reset the request box. I hope I'm not catching anybody off guard. Oop, I waited just long enough. Oh, SO jumped in. Meditation Corner was working, but I stopped doing it. That is the first response in the new one. Meditation Corner was working, but I stopped doing it. Yeah, Meditation Corner. I remember that. Mid-afternoon. Getting together, doing some meditation, quieting the mind, examining and exploring some ideas around self-love, and then easing into working on the major task of the day. Yeah, that was a nice vibe in the afternoon. So, blank was working, but I stopped doing it. That is the prompt that we're working with at the moment. What is something that you had going that was working for you, but for some reason, for some odd reason, you're like, nah. Like, nah, yeah, it's all right. Let's try something else. So let's just stop. So FactBot says sleeping was working, but FactBot's brain says, no, you don't get to sleep. Ah ha ha. And also sleep drugs don't help. Now, yeah, FactBot's having a good time. So sleeping was working, but I stopped doing it. And is resistant to aids to sleeping. So Noble Ancient says that being mindful was working, but I stopped doing it. Being mindful was working, but I stopped doing it. I started multitasking in the trade-off. Started existing in a state where the task in front of you was not enough. So you needed to bring in others. Multitasking is saying that the task in front of me is not enough. So let me divide my attention among some other things. Noble is sure that he's getting more tasks done, but I beg to differ, Noble. You are not getting more done. You're taking longer. Trust me. And it's not as good. It's not as good. You're not doing as good of a job. Nobody can do it. Everybody thinks they can. Nobody can. Keep it real with yourself now. Just the math of it. Just the math of it. If you just do the math, it doesn't add up. Miss says, working out with working. Now I feel lardy and my BP is high. Also stopped taking my cholesterol meds. Yeah. I mean, if you could look around you at all of the unfinished tasks and then let me know what's up. Look around at all the half-finished tasks. Look at all that half-assed work and tell me. Champion fighter, welcome in. All right. So Mez says discipline was working in mind, heart, and body. It was working, but I let it go. All right. Blank was working, but I stopped doing it. Now, I think that it's important to keep in mind that we can go back to it. We don't have to stay in a place that, is okay. Your practice is always back there waiting for you. Your practice doesn't judge you. If it was working, you can go back to it. Your practice doesn't judge you. So smoothies were working, but I stopped doing it. Stop making those smoothies. I used to have more energy, more consistent nutrition, but now it's like whatever. Someone anonymously says, I'm working on more growth on myself, and I believe that with the natural supplements, you will experience growth. Well, there you go. All right. Miss says, I'm back on my ADHD meds and it's amazing, functioning at a higher level. All right. We're going to get ready to go over to the next prompt. If y'all ready, we can do that. And naturally, what we want to do is turn that question around. Blank is not working, but I keep on doing it. So there are things that aren't working that we keep doing. There's things that are working that we stop doing. There's things that's not working that we keep doing. So blank is not working, but I keep doing it. Man says it's a lot. It's a lot to hit thank you on the keyboard. Good morning, Anka Iro. So let us know. Blank is not working, but I keep doing it. Thank you so much for the like. I really appreciate it. So let us know. Blank was not working, but I keep doing it. Noble Ancient says, trying to tell G I am legit isn't working, but I keep doing it and will prove it in honesty. Yeah. You could have already cashed that check. If you hadn't been doing a whole bunch of other stuff, you could already done cash that check. You finishing it today, but you've been working on other stuff too. You could already had that money in your hand. So, you know, activate the special attack, do all that. I think the thing that the thing that we fail to account for are switching costs. There are switching costs. So anytime you go from one thing to another, it's not like you just jump right into it. It takes, you have to acclimate yourself to the other task. It takes a few minutes to get your mind wrapped around what you're doing. And then, and then you're into it. And then once you stop and go do something else, you're going to pay that same tax every time you switch. So, you know, that's where the math falls apart for you. If you don't count those switching costs, it's like a little tax. Tim says, nothing is not working, but I keep doing it anyway. Nothing is not working, but I keep doing nothing. All the negatives, nothing is not working, but I keep doing nothing. Yeah, everybody thinks they're different. Yeah. So, blank is not working, but I keep doing it. The laws of physics don't apply. All right. Yeah. Med says, I've been doing all that talking. It ain't working, but I'm going to keep talking. So the reasons why, it's interesting to think sometimes we recognize something that is working and we can't keep doing it, or we see something that's not working, but we keep doing it. I think one of the underlying causes of that tendency, I think, is boredom. And our relationship to boredom. Miss says, man, I need a car, and somehow that fits this prompt. I'm gonna just get a car this summer and ruin the environment like I've been trying to avoid. Well, I guess the question, Miss, is do you ride in cars? Because if you're riding in a car, I mean, do you ever ride in a car? Do you walk everywhere? Mo is here. Welcome in. Mo, let us know what is not working that you keep on doing. They say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Miss says, I ride in cars less than I would if I had actually had a car. Well, if you're concerned about the environment, when you get a car, you can practice some restraint. You don't have to be out there cruising. Curry Chan for Garden, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Yeah, ain't no reason for you to be out there cruising just because you can. Just keep that concern for the environment first and foremost in your mind and get you a whip so you can get around, do what you got to do. So Forgotten comes in and says, my love life is not working, but I keep on doing it. It's not working, but I keep on doing it. I hear you. All right. Mez is klutzy. Mez is a klutz. All right. So this next question, as I mentioned, a lot of times we will stop doing something that's working out of boredom, right? We're just bored. So we want to do something different just because, even though what we're doing is working, we need a change up. We need some drama. We need some uncertainty. We invite some of that into our life just because out of boredom. Our inability to endure boredom is leveraged against us so much of the time. So let me know, what do you do when you get bored? What do you do? How do you deal with that boredom? Sometimes we run to another task, or we run away from what we're working on just because we get bored with it. So we need some stimulation. We need something different. That feeling of boredom is just too much to bear. So when you get bored, where do you go? What do you do? A lot of times the thing that we describe or experience as a block or a challenge in something that we're making, when it gets difficult, we experience that as, this is hard, so let me do something else. Well, really, just it feeling like writer's block, for example. Writer's block is just what it feels like to write. That's just what it feels like. It's just hard. Some stuff is just hard. And it's okay for it to be difficult, and you can condition yourself to continue to plug away. There isn't any magic. The things that we attribute to some sort of magic inspiration, that might be there as a spark in the beginning, but at the end of the day, it's just going to not feel great sometimes. It's just going to be hard. That's just a matter of fact. It's just work. That's what the work feels like. Hard sometimes. So Noble says, I redirect my boredom into a project and give me a creative outlet, or I adventure. I adventure. Curry Chan says, I watch YouTube, yo. There you go. Watch YouTube. That's there for you. There is that. There's always somewhere we can go and scroll, right? You can get on that scroll game. Tim says, when I get bored, I do things I may regret. I do things that I may regret when I get bored. Miss says, I try to assess what I appreciate about the thing. I also try to be with others. Music, try to write. YouTube. Man says, I interact with intense people who distract my emotions. Interacting with intense people when you get bored. Forgotten says, when I get bored, I listen to music, spoon, cook/eat, and play my PS4. Noble says, you can interact with me and never get bored. Au contraire. Noble, I could get bored interacting with you. All right. Noah. Welcome, man. Thank you so much for joining us. You say that and yet challenge me constantly. Just because I'm challenging you doesn't mean I'm not bored. See, that's the thing about me. I can sit in boredom. You think I can't ignore you? I could definitely ignore you. All right, fun fact. Dungeons and Dragons or Vampire the Masquerade, or you don't care about the specifics, but you get the gist. There you go, Factbot. You play some games. All right, enter a nickname is here. Welcome, man. Thank you for joining. I don't know if you're the same person. Maybe you got kicked. Maybe you got were removed from the platform for being too obscure with your language. So Divine Nesquick says, I usually draw and listen to music I usually draw and listen to music. That's what I do when I get bored. Sergeant Sam is here. Thank you so much for joining us, Sergeant Sam. So what do you do when you get bored? That is the question. Despite what you see on the background, that is the intention. So there we go. Mez says, writing is nice and positive when I'm bored. All right. In case anyone was confused by the misspelling, what do you do when you get bored is the question. Noah says, jamming with random backing tracks on the internet with my guitar. That is what I do when I get bored. All right, I think we've had enough time with this one. Let us know if you're ready to go to the next prompt. Oh, we got another one coming in. SO says, I like to socialize with others. I like to annoy them for my entertainment. So annoy people for your entertainment when you get bored. I could dig it. Said SO got the Aries vibe. I could dig that. Yeah. I don't know nothing about it, but we got some Aries around. And it seems to track. All right, let's get ready to go to the next prompt. All right, here we are. Get ready to reset the request box for you real quick. The question is, what reputation do you have with yourself? What reputation do you have with yourself? It's sort of a way to speak to your internal standards, the way that you see yourself. A lot of times we try to manage the reputation that we have with other people, but then we betray ourselves constantly. And by doing so, we undermine our ability to be consistent, to be yeah, we don't live up to our word sometimes, and we let it slide in ways that we wouldn't if we were talking to somebody else. So we have a reputation with ourselves, and that tends to be the pattern that we are locked into. We tend to act like the type of person that we see ourselves. We tend to act consistently with the way that we see ourselves. So what is the reputation that you have with yourself? Charlie the Burrito is back. Welcome in and thank you for being here. So Tim says, I don't think I understand the question. So I think that you would probably agree that you have a certain reputation among the people in your life as being a certain type of person based on their interactions with you. If people have if people know you or deal with you on a consistent basis, they have a way that they see you, and that kind of constitutes your reputation with them. Your reputation with yourself is more speaking to your inner sense of who you are. And that is something that kind of guides your behavior kind of in subtle ways, right? Makes it easier for you to do certain things and more difficult for you to do other things because of the consistency or lack of consistency. So let's see what we have. What is the reputation you have with yourself? Miss says, man, not good. Like, I'm kind and all, but my life looks like somebody put trash in a blender. I feel like I'm not adequate at all. So your reputation with yourself is one of being inadequate. That's sort of what's going on inside your mind. So whatever that is, it's not beating yourself up to voice it, because if that's what's going on in your mind and you can acknowledge it, then you can begin to address it. A lot of times we don't vocalize or own those sort of negative or unfortunate self concepts. We don't acknowledge it, so we just try to plaster over it with sort of fake positivity. But if that's what's coming up for you, you can go ahead on and say it, and then you can go on and do something about it. Lexi Landeros, thank you so much for the like. I appreciate you. So Miss says, like what? How do you address it? I mean, I think it's something I mention often, is you start building evidence to the contrary, right? If there are things that, if you have the sense of you are inadequate, then the little steps towards self-efficacy that you engage in, when you do so mindfully and when you document that process, then you have the ammunition to challenge that, that inaccurate self-concept, that inaccurate reputation. It's like you're building your internal credit store. So Forgotten has a self-reputation of a procrastinator, that one sweaty guy. You see yourself as that sweaty guy, and a goofy goober. Carlos Medina is here. Thank you for joining us, Carlos. Hope you're doing well this morning. We're talking about the reputation that we have with ourselves. So Noble Ancient says that my reputation with myself is one of unique standing, as I know my tales and try to honor them. I am rounded and grounded in reality too. I'm rounded and grounded in reality. That's my reputation with me. Miss, thank you so much for the spoons. I really appreciate it. So Champion Fighter says that my reputation is that I hold back my anger too much and walk away from scenarios where I've been heavily verbally distracted, and I look back at it and ask myself, why be the bigger man? Why not knock out the rude old man-child? So you regret holding back your anger? Your reputation is as someone who holds back their anger, but maybe feels like you shouldn't? I don't know, Champion Fighter. I mean, your name is Champion Fighter, but I wonder if that restraint isn't actually a pretty good idea. The ability to do something about, someone's rude behavior and the choice not to, I think that's actually probably a good thing. You probably would be locked up somewhere if you acted out in anger all the times that you chose not to. Welcome in, RJ. So Tim says, I don't know, man. I just be vibing with a little focus. I can be wild but controlled. I'm very confident. And whereas I may not be that way with everything I do, but that's the goal eventually, to become more confident with everything that I do. So Carlos Medina says that I want to be known as the guy that could but didn't want to but did anyway. I want to be the guy known as the guy that could but didn't want to but did anyway. Man. There you go. Get over that procrastination. That's an aspirational goal. You could do it. You didn't want to, but you did it anyway. Miss Hippie, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. All right. What reputation do you have with yourself is the question at the moment. FactBot says that, fun fact, FactBot struggles to identify what FactBot is, whether it be personally or what. So it's hard to have a reputation when you don't even know who or what you are. I can definitely appreciate that. You have to have some sort of self-awareness to determine or discern what your reputation is with yourself. All right, here we go. If we are ready to go to the next prompt, we can get ready to get into that. So this is a really quick fill in the blank. A lot of times we can start building that, working on improving our sort of internal credit score, our reputation with ourselves. not by making grand pronouncements, but by taking little steps. So we got one more in the box. SOK is going to wrap up this one. Although it may not seem like it, when I get blinded by stress, I know I love myself, but I have a funny way of showing it sometimes. I know I love myself. I just have a funny way of showing it sometimes. So we can build up that sense of having a good reputation to withhold within ourselves, not by taking on some sort of grand action, but by simple daily disciplines, daily things that you are committed to. And if you need to adjust the frequency, if it's something that you need to do weekly, or that you could choose to do weekly or even monthly, as opposed to every day, everybody has a different frequency, but there is a consistent action that you can take maybe 3 times a week. So that every day, just take whatever frequency is appropriate for that action. And think about, if you blank for blank minutes every day, every week, whatever is appropriate, it would make all the difference in the world. So what is an action that you can engage in with consistency that you think would make a huge difference in your quality of life and your progress towards your goals and the quality of your relationships and all those things? A regular, consistent action. If I could blank for blank minutes every day, it would make all the difference in the world. So Tim says, if I stretched for 20 to 30 minutes, it would make all the difference in the world. If I stretched for 20 to 30 minutes. Keep that body supple and mobile and strong. So Factbot says, fun fact, a Fatbox sleeps for 60 minutes 8 times. If I sleep for 60 minutes 8 times every day, it will make all the difference in the world. Tim says, keep my body bodying. Body yaddy yaddy. There you go. Yeah, let Factbot to sleep. So if I write for 1440, and that's over what period of time, miss? What is the 1440? What span of time does that cover? So, but naturally, you can't write for 24 hours a day, right? That's not possible. Because you got to sleep, like there's other stuff. I guess it would make a difference. The difference would be that you would be deceased before long from deprivation. Now, gee, anything is possible. Okay. I think that there's a point of diminishing returns. So Carlos Medina decides to chime in on the stretching. That stretching one is true. It helps blood flow and dexterity in the limbs, making your body more flexible and less prone to posture or any movement injury. Carlos ain't got nothing to do. He just wanted to maybe gonna stretch as well. Maybe we should all stretch. So SOK says, if I meditated or drew for 30 minutes a day, it would make all the difference in the world. Meditation and drawing. Meditation or drawing. Drawing as meditation. So Forgotten says meditation for 20 minutes every day would make all the difference in the world. Yeah. It's one of those things that is where it works, but maybe we stop doing it, right? Miss Hippie says, if I painted for 60 minutes, it would make all the difference in the world. Carlos says, maybe I'll stretch my brain so I'm less prone to hurts in the feels. Stretch brain first, use mouth later. Stretch your brain first and use your mouth later. So Champion Fighter says, practicing and fighting every day will all over make my body a strong, solid, stable, and dangerous specimen. Every day, turning into a dangerous specimen, a weapon. Turn your body into a dangerous specimen. Don't hurt him, Champion Fighter. Heart of Darkness is here. Thank you so much for joining us. D-Dot, welcome. All right. If you blank for blank minutes a day, it would make all the difference in the world. So Noble Ancient says, if I design a piece of any one game for 5 minutes a day, it would make all the difference in the world. Just 5 minutes a day. Just that consistency over time. Hocus Pocus, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Mississippi's got to go. I appreciate you for stopping through. All right, we're looking at those daily activities, what you can do every day for a certain number of minutes. It just accumulates over time. And sometimes it'll get boring. It's working, it gets boring, and then you stop, but don't stop. If it's working, if it's not working yet, give it time to work. Once it starts working, keep going. Hey, Zero, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you. consistency. So what is something that would make a huge difference for you? I reopened the request box to give you an opportunity to share a key takeaway if there is one from this session. If you have a key takeaway, you can drop it in the request box. Maybe we can catch some screenshots. Welcome back, RJ. Tim says, my key takeaway is, it's okay to stop and start as long as you keep being the you want to be. Trial and error. If I could shut up and meditate for 30 minutes a day, man says, lexicological deity points out that it's the same name, but different words. Well, as a lexicological deity, you should maybe consider that it's not the same name. It might have the same meaning, but if it's different words, then it's a different name. He's like, touche, touche. All right. FactBot says, fun fact, FactBot has learned that maybe, just maybe, sleep is very important, and you know all the other stuff like not dying, etc. Yeah. All right. Noble Ancient is sharing that my single and powerful takeaway is from this iconic episode is that I am about to prove my truest tale, as I am legendary and will be who I really am. Thanks, G. Well, thank you, Noble. All right. Champion Fighter says, the most growth I've had is when I started knocking down my sparring partners while barely trying. It made me feel complete to know how capable I am and to be able to use body in such an artistic sport. You can use your body in such an artistic sport. That's the growth. Okay. Miz says that my key takeaway is just keep moving. Just need to keep moving. Someone anonymously says that my key takeaway is mind your time. Essa says, I slept Eastern time today. Okay. Alex, thank you so much for the like. All right, let's see what we have here. I think that about does it on the recap. So let me say goodbye to all the folks listening in. Oh, I lost connection. My stream ended anyway. Something happened.